All right. Okay, so the purpose of tonight is to talk about the Smicha course. Is going to be presented by myself. My name is Rabbi Kesselman. Definitely spoken to all of you already, one, maybe twice, maybe three times, maybe four times. And also by Rabbi Grevich, who I will pass it over to in a moment. Okay, what are we going to talk about tonight? So we're going to talk about what exactly Machon Smicha is. We're going to talk about why it's important to learn and to get Smicha. We are going to talk about what topics we are going to be covering throughout the Smicha program. We're going to talk about what Machon Smicha, what we are able to offer you. We're going to talk about how the translated and Spanish Shulchan Aruch works, which depending on when you signed up, you might have received already the package, or if you signed up within the past 2 or 3 days, you would not have received it, but you will be receiving it. And we're going to talk about the schedule. We're going to talk about what you need when learning and how you should go about learning. We're going to talk about how tests work. All right, let's jump right in. Okay, so what exactly is Machon Smicha? Again, most people here know what it is, hence you're already here, but it's still nice to just offer some background, which is the Machon Smicha is the premier institute of halacha, serving the English-speaking Torah community, and the goal is to enable people to really learn halacha at a high level, which is something that you will find as you go through the program. It's something that I always have thought about when I was teaching in yeshiva, and just in general giving shiur and whatever it is. There is this notion that if things are being presented in English, if things are being translated, then that automatically means it's being dumbed down, right? The quality of the learning is being sacrificed as a result of it being presented in English. So the ultimate goal of Machon Smicha is to create an environment where even though we're presenting a lot of material which is translated and summarized and introductions to the halachas, whatever it is, all in English, but at the same time not to sacrifice on the quality of the learning. In other words, the learning is still very high level. It's still very advanced. We're really going to be getting into, I don't want to scare anybody, but really going to be getting into the halachic process in depth, into the halachic weeds, so to speak. And the fact that it's being presented in English is in no way, shape, or form a way of dumbing it down. On the contrary, it's a way of making sure that everybody understands and that it's properly been grasped by the Talmud. Okay. The next thing to talk about is why it's important to learn for Smicha. So again, obviously the people here who are attending this, even though I recognize that some people here, are still a little bit on the fence about whether or not they should join the program or not. Not everybody's fully signed up. Nevertheless, most people already have some desire to learn for Smicha. Nevertheless, I want to just go over 3 important points. The first important point why it's important to learn Smicha is because every home needs a rabbi, and it is incumbent upon the man of the home to be the rabbi in the home. And that doesn't always mean that you're going to know the answer to every question, much like every home should have somebody who knows first aid, right? That doesn't mean that, if somebody needs an open heart surgery, the father or the person who knows first aid is going to be performing it. But it's important that on some level there should be someone knowledgeable, both of medical knowledge and also in the context of what we're talking about, of halacha that comes up. Second reason why it's important to learn for Smicha is to learn how to ask a shaila, right? So when a question does come up, and I do call the Rav, I know what to say. If I'm calling about a shaila that comes up in the kitchen, so I know when did I use it, when did I use it last, how was it hot, was it klirishin, was it klisheni, ben yomei, milchik, fleishik, parav, etc. Many complex or just things that people don't know. If they don't learn, they don't know how to, so to speak, have the conversation. And the last one, which is to learn how to navigate a Shulchan Aruch, right? Shulchan Aruch, for good or for bad, or if I may say so, for bad or for worse, to some extent is neglected in yeshivas. In other words, even people who do go to yeshiva, halacha is an often overlooked subject, in Shulchan Aruch especially. But it's a shod because, the Shulchan Aruch is, how we know how to live as from Yidden. And Therefore, it's really important that somebody should learn how to navigate it, should learn how to, how to open it up, how to use it, and what to look up, how to look up, etc. And that's why we specifically learn these sugyas, right? These subjects. So these subjects are fundamental, not just in terms of the actual material that's covered, but also in terms of the structure of, these are good microcosms. These are good microcosms for, in general, how the halachic process works. And if you really understand it properly, you learn it well, and you'll be able to that the skills that you pick up learning these sugyas are translatable and transferable to all other areas of halacha. That's also why it's important to learn in the jargon, picking up the language. Right? We use a lot of transliteration in the books and in the course of the shiurim, such that by the time you finished, you're fluent in the halachic jargon, etc. It's also what's important to learn inside the Shulchan Aruch, such that you do walk away and you're able to learn to some extent on your own. Okay. One important point about getting smicha is that with smicha alone, one still cannot practice as a rabbi, you can function as a rov, or rule on halachic matters, much like any other profession. Shimush is required first. And what that means is that, just like, again, we brought the example before of a doctor, or somebody knowing first aid. Becoming a doctor has two parts, right? First, you learn the theory, and then you do a residency, you do an internship in a hospital, and they see that you know how to apply the knowledge that you acquired throughout your schooling. You can actually apply it in a real world setting, and they're not necessarily the same skill. So smicha is the first step of that process, learning the halachas inside the sefer. And again, we do go through the halacha l'maaseh, but nevertheless, to apply it and practice it on a day-to-day basis is a bit of a different skill. And with smicha alone, one is not, you can't pass in halacha. All right. Let me stop here for a second. I'm going to stop my screen. I'm going to pass it on to Rabbi Gorevich, who can introduce himself and tell you a little bit more about what he does, assuming he's there.
Hi, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome, everybody, to this meeting and Machin Smicha in general. For those who already decided to join or those who are on the fence, thank you for being here. I guess I will introduce myself and explain what my role is here in Machin Smicha and anything which is related to that. So I like to refer to myself as the human aspect of this learning experience. As you'll see soon, most of the learning is done online, pre-recorded shiurim, and books that will be sent to your home or available online. But we do recognize that it's important to have a human conversation as we're learning and to have a human relationship with the subject. So as we go through this program, I will be here to answer questions you may have, whether in the actual Shulchan Aruch translation, to clarify something, if you want to learn something more in depth, anything related to the subjects we're learning, and also anything related to the program in general, whether it's a technical issue. If there's something I could help with, I'm here to help with. And the way you will do that is you will be getting my WhatsApp number, and there's no need to text me, Rabbi, can I ask a question? I'm letting you all know, yes, you can ask any questions you want. Use the WhatsApp number to send a voice note, to write a message. Phone calls are very difficult at this time, but if you send a voice note or write up your question and send it, we will be very happy to assist in any way. Another aspect is we're here to guide you, at least in the beginning, to get involved in the learning. So when you join and when you get my number, you'll also be getting a link to set up a short 15-minute meeting. I encourage all of you, if you feel the need, to set up that meeting. That way we could speak one-on-one individually, we could get to know each other. And if you have any questions that you want to speak about more in a conversation, that would be a great way to do it. And in general, I will be keeping in touch with you throughout the program. I'll be checking in once every couple of weeks to see how if there's any issues where you're holding, and just to be an encouragement and a support system to finish this journey. That is my role here. I encourage all of you to take advantage of this resource that's available to you, and wish you much hatzlacha in your learning and everything you do.
Okay, yeah, Yasher Koyach for that. Let's pick up where we left off. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is what topics we cover throughout the course of the Smicha program. So the first one is Basar B'Cholov, Yerdeh Simon and Pei Zayin through Tzadik Zayin. Then we do Hilchas Malicha and Machalei Akum together. Traditionally, Malicha, the laws of salting meat, was part of Smicha. But over the years, as that has become less and less practical, many Smicha programs are moving away from it. So what we do is we do the first siman, the first chapter of Melicha, because I think that, again, most people are not salting meat. Nevertheless, as you'll come to see, there's a lot of overlap between the halachas of Melicha and Basar B'Cholav and Taruva. So it's important to learn it at least to some extent. And then instead of doing the rest of Melicha, which really gets into what's basically not very practical nowadays, we incorporate Machalei Akum, which is very practical. So Pas Akum, Bishul Akum, Cholav Akum, these halachas which really come up on a day-to-day basis in every Jew's home. And the third section we do is Taruvas. That is the bedrock of all of Hilchas Kashrus. And then finally, we conclude with a unit on Shabbos. I want to point out that we're actually in the middle of redoing the way we learn Shabbos. So when you get the package of books for your Smicha program, in other words, you get the 9 books that we send you, you will get the Shabbos book, but it is possible that it will have changed by the time you arrive at the Shabbos part of the Smicha program. It's only going to be better. Okay. The next thing is to talk about what does Machan Smicha offer. In other words, what can you expect? So in other words, we spoke about why it's important to learn Smicha, what we're going to cover, but okay, what are we offering you as you go through your Smicha journey? So the first one is your online portal, right? You have an account on our website from where you can access all the content, your shiurim, summaries, introductions, translations, quizzes, ultimately the tests, and you can, mark off your progress as you go through. The next thing is a schedule for learning, when we're learning what. It has not been sent out yet. It'll be sent out tomorrow, Be'ezras Hashem. I'll talk about it more in a second. The third thing is shiurim. By now, I assume you're all aware the shiurim are not live. That said, the shiurim are all in your account. They're uploaded to your account. For every siman, there's a bunch of shiurim, and you can access them when you are ready, when you want. The next thing we offer is the translated and explained Shulchan Aruch, which I'll also talk about more in a second. Access to teachers for questions. That's Rabbi Garevich or myself. Then we have review questions and quizzes. At the end of every siman, there is a quiz, multiple choice quiz, which you can use to basically see if you're learning properly, if you understand what you learned. It's a pretty big hit, actually. When I made the quizzes originally, I did not realize how much of a big deal they would. I just thought, let's make a quiz at the end of every siman, but turns out it's like it's geschmack, it's nice, it's good, it's instant feedback. You see, am I learning correctly? Am I understanding what's going on, etc. The next thing you're going to be getting, you have access to is the tests. We have a group WhatsApp chat, which has not been put together. Same thing in the next 24 hours. It'll be up and running. You'll be added to it, where people can post questions, answers, explanations, discussions, whatever it is. Some of our group WhatsApp chats are more active than others. So it remains to be seen how this one will go. And then a Smicha certificate upon completion of the course. In other words, assuming you successfully take and pass all the tests, which I'll also talk about in a second. Okay, let's talk about how the translated and explained Shulchan Aruch works. So like I said, you're going to be getting 8 of these, 3 for Basar B'Cholav, 1 for Malicha, 1 for Machalei Akum, and 3 for Taruvas. When you open up the book, it looks like this on the inside. On the right side is the Shulchan Aruch. On the left side is the English translation and explained version of it. every halacha is basically broken up into 4 parts. The first part is an introduction. That's any relevant background information. Right? So recognizing that the Shulchan Aruch does not exist within a vacuum, right? It's one link on a very long chain of halachic tradition and scholarship, and there's much that came before it and much that came after it. So one cannot simply open up a Shulchan Aruch and start to read. It'll just be difficult to understand, and one will definitely not appreciate what's really going on. That's why it's important to be brought up to speed in terms of the relevant Mishnah, the relevant Gemara, Machlokes Rishonim, Terbeis Yosef, Darkei Moshe, Bach, whatever it is, that we bring down in the introduction to every halacha. So on this page, in this sample, the introduction is very short, but other times the introduction could be very long. That's the first section of every halacha. The second section is the translation of the actual Shulchan Aruch, of the Mechaber and the Ramah, who are the authors of the Shulchan Aruch. That's very straightforward, nothing really much to explain. The third section is the discussions and explanation section. That is the Noisei Kelim, the commentary, the commentators on the Shulchan Aruch, so primarily from the Shach and the Taz, which are the 2 primary Noisei Kelim for the section of Yeridei in the Shulchan Aruch. They're the ones that wrap around the text of the Shulchan Aruch, but we also obviously bring down other poskim where they are negeya, where they're relevant, and also the halacha l'maaseh, the practical halacha of what to do, or at least different opinions of what to do practically, and based on your community and your minhagim, then you can decide, you follow your posik, whoever it is. And the fourth section is the sources and notes, which is basically Mar Makomis, right? So sources, so you can check up to see if we're making things up. And also just extended discussions, more complicated things, more intricate things, to take the learning somewhat to the next level. When it comes to the test, you're not responsible for the footnotes, but you might want to learn them. Just, the more learning, the better. All right, let's talk about the schedule for a second. Okay, so it's going to be sent via email. In other words, again, you'll get it tomorrow. You can integrate it with Google Calendar, which is helpful for some people in that some people want to be able to see it, get notifications, and they use a Google Calendar. So if you use like Apple Calendar, whatever it is, you can integrate it with that also. That's fine. Okay, so this is what the schedule will look like. So this is an example, but it basically is exactly the same. So it tells you when we start, when we're learning each siman, when it's chazara, when the tests are. It's pretty straightforward. Again, the beginning, it takes a few days to figure out, your rhythm and how you want to go about learning. If you want to do the shiur first, you want to do the book first, you want to learn on your own first, you want to do the summaries first, whatever. But within a few days, you should be fine. Okay, what do you need in terms of equipment and how you should go about learning? So obviously you need a device, a computer, a tablet, a phone. That's fine. I don't think the tests work on a phone. That's just something to be aware of. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think they work on a phone. You need a Shulchan Aruch, so you can either use ours or a regular one. And then if you are interested in additional study, then especially because we started with Basar B'Cholev, so the Oz V'Hadar has a sefer in Basar B'Cholev, which is very geschmack. And somebody actually told me recently that they're coming out with one on Taruvas, which is going to be incredible. But that's in Hebrew. And in English, there is a book called The Laws of Kashrus by Rabbi Binyamin Forst. There's actually 2 books. Rabbi Binyamin Forst put out 2 books. One is a red book called The Laws of Kashrus. One is a blue book, which is called something to do like Kosher Kitchen. I don't remember what it's called exactly. So the Kosher Kitchen one, they're both produced by ArtScroll, same author. The blue one is like a much more practical version. The red one is the more like scholarly academic version. So for Smicha, it's definitely better to have the more scholar. Again, I don't recommend buying anything really at this point. I say, take what you have already, get comfortable, and then you can decide down the road if you want to, invest in in some new svarim. But Stam, I'm just putting this out there in case I've gotten that question in the past. Okay, how should you go about learning? Okay, so this is just a suggested way. Basically like this. When people start, sometimes they get a little bit overwhelmed because, there's so much content. There's the book, there's the summaries, there's the shiur, there's learning inside the Shulchan Aruch. Like, what do I do? What do I like literally do right now? So this is my recommendation for what to do. But some people find that, they like doing a different order. They always say, listen to the shiur first. The shiurim tend to be, they're not that long. They're between 35 to 40 minutes. Just introduce you to the sugya, then learn the introduction to the halacha, and then learn halach and sad, the Shulchan Aruch, and the rest of the study guide, and learn the Shach and the Taz and Sad, depending on your level, if you're Shayach too, if you want to learn it inside. I'll point out over here, it's not in the slide, but Rabbi Gorevich has recordings of himself reading and translating the Shach and the Taz, some of them. So we have a list of selected Shach and Taz. Rabbi Gorevich has kindly recorded himself reading and translating them. So in addition to the shiurim, which I give, which are more outside, there's also inside shiurim on the Shach and the Taz. So that's pretty helpful. You'll see that in your account under the general category. Okay, let's talk about tests for a second. Okay, so there's 6 tests in total, 2 on Basar B'Cholav, 1 on Melicha and Machal Yakum together, 2 on Taruvas, and 1 on Shabbos. The tests are all multiple choice, they're timed, they're open book, 70% passing mark, 1 week of Chazorah before each test, 1 week window to take each test. What that means is like this. Let me just start at the beginning. So every test is exactly the same. 30 questions. You have an hour and a half to complete it, and it's open book. Not necessarily are the answers, going to present themselves, right in front of you, but you can use whatever swar and whatever notes you want. Passing is 70. And the way we structure the tests on the schedule is that before each test is 1 week of Chazorah, and then the actual test itself is you're given a week to take it. Now, it only takes an hour and a half. So what that means is that you can basically decide how long of Chazorah you want. If you feel like you're not ready for the test, well, then use that whole window, use that whole week window for the test for Chazorah, take the test on the last day, you'll effectively have gotten yourself 2 weeks of Chazorah. Whereas if you feel like you're ready straight away to take the test, you can, and then you can either in other words, on the first day, of the test week window to take the test, you can take it, and then you can take, 6 days of vacation, or you can, get started on the next topic, whatever it is. Okay, that's basically it. If anybody, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Before I turn it over to questions, I just want to give everybody a bracha. That is a joke. I'm going to ruin the joke, but somebody once came to the Rogachover Goin and asked him for a bracha. So the Rogachover said, I don't. Oh, okay, I just remembered it. So he asked the Rogachover for a bracha. So the Rogachover said, I don't give brachas. So the person said, the Gemara says that do not let the bracha of a hedyot, of a simple person, be light in your eyes. In other words, even the bracha of a simple person should be taken seriously. So this person said to the Rogachover, he said, it's a kal v'chomer. If the bracha of a simple person should not be taken lightly, in other words, if even the bracha of a simple person should be taken seriously, then kol sheken v'kal v'chomer, the bracha of the Rogachover should be taken, extra seriously. So the Rogachover responded to him. He said, instead of me giving you a bracha with a kal v'chomer, why don't you give yourself a bracha without a kal v'chomer? Anyways, so whether you got the joke or not, I do want to conclude with a bracha to wish everybody a lot of hatzlacha in your learning. May you give yourselves a lot of nachas, the Eibishter a lot of nachas, your parents, your spouses, your children, whichever one of those you have, and ultimately give yourself nachas and, see a lot of hatzlacha as you go. And may very soon or immediately we be zoiche to see the reinstatement of real smicha with the coming of Mashiach b'mehera v'yameinu.